Well, I'm curious how it can say endorsed and approved on May 6, 2021 when we haven't got there yet.
Those are the intended dates. Those are the meetings where
I get that, but you're showing us a document with a date in the future saying endorsed and approved. I find that objectionable, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a good comment. That's a decent comment, Ron. I appreciate it. I would say what we've listed, and the reason why we've listed it in highlight is because by no means is it endorsed and approved, but those are the meetings where they will review it. I think you bring up a fair point that we could probably find some better language than.
Well, if this is a public document, and I mean, that's just not the way you do a public document. When you can't tell me it's going to be endorsed and approved on the first go around when you showed us 27 pages, and I don't even know how long this document is.
31 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
You made my point.
Yep. The draft has already been reviewed, and that's where it went out to the public from the executive board and the technical committee. Their final approval will be on May the 6th and May the 19th, but I'll definitely take into consideration what you said. I think looking at
all you have to do is say draft has been endorsed.
Yep, fair point. I appreciate it, Ron.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions or comments on this particular document to help the group out at all? All right, so with that said, I think my other thing I wanted to share was the transportation improvement program. So several required documents as a government organization. Number one was this work program that I just ran through. The other thing that we're required to do, and I'm not going to bring it up because it is in draft and it is not out in the public at this point, but it is our projects. And I think this really narrows it down much more for this particular group, but it's what our commitment is for the next 5 years of projects. And this is again where we've talked about the 69 corridor to go ahead and continue to look at it, to evaluate it. The Great Western Extension, the Sundog Connector. These are more of our, if you will, our substantial projects that the technical committee that you will continue to be able to give input on, and our executive board will approve for us to move forward. I would say on average, being our bigger projects, I think we have, when all is said and done, between $500,000 and $600,000 to those transportation improvement projects. It does range from smaller studies. As an example, we've just recently have done the alternative selection reports for State Route 69 and 169. We did a review of the intersection of State Route 89A and Robert Road. So those are some bigger plans. And then again, this year, tentatively, we were looking at updating the Great Western Extension. And if you're not completely familiar with that, again, would be a new road connecting Chino Valley with the town of Prescott Valley. And then in a few years, we were looking at updating some plans related to the Sundog Connector, which again would connect Prescott, where the new jail is being built, and it would connect Prescott Valley. So again, a new road. And I think those two roads in particular are really roads that I really want to bring to the attention of this group. I would look for some real engagement and participation. I will say that we have existing documents out there. So what SIMPO's looking at doing, again, is updating existing documents. So it's as though we're not proposing brand new things. And I see a hand raised by SIMPO. Is that Allison? Are you raising your hand?
That's for JD.
Oh, okay. Let me just quickly give me 2 more minutes, JD, and I'll definitely take your question or comment. So right now, the Great Western has a plan from the year 2010, and it's an extensive plan. If I remember right, I think it was done by Yavapai County. It's on Yavapai County's website. The plan cost around $1 million, so it is pretty extensive. But what SIMPO is looking at doing is updating that document. And then also same thing with Sundog Connector. We're looking at updating the one that they did. I want to say it was about 3-4 years ago. So what we're doing right now is we're having discussions with the technical committee of SIMPO, asking what would be of value in this particular scope to go ahead and do these updates. What things have been done related to both of these projects, what needs to be done in order to move forward. I will say that I've been invited to participate with the efforts of the North Prescott area plan efforts by the city of Prescott. And in light of the work that they're doing to look at the land use all around the airport, you know, my recommendation to SIMPO, to the technical committee and the executive board, is that we hold off the Great Western update to be able to see what comes out of the land use discussions and development, and then we'd be able to move forward with the update for Great Western. With that said, I think it opens up the conversation to SIMPO to move the Sundog Connector update to more of a current conversation than where we had it 3-4 years out. So with that said, though, let me pause and take a question or comment from JD.
Like to hear this. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm just really concerned with this Great Western connector, and I think somewhere I have a copy of the previous report, but that really does cross an area where pronghorn connectivity is essential. And I just want to go on the record as saying, I hope that we will be involved along with our partners at Game and Fish and whomever else is involved with that to be able to recommend and take action way ahead of time, so we're not caught kind of like, oh, gee, so sorry, you should have been doing that 2 or 3 years ago. So that's going to be a critical project, I think, for EMAC. And I just want to make sure that plans are made for us to get the orientation and the resources and the direction that we need so that we can be a benefit on this planning.
JD, thank you for your comments. One of the things I was asking Allison and Daniel, kind of getting me up to speed on some things, and they did share, if you will, a little bit of the sentiment that you just shared, that, you know, it'd be valuable for us to be able to get EMAC in conversations way earlier than later. And I think, at least my hope is exactly what we're doing today, JD, and to the EMAC group, is that at this point, we're trying to look at, again, the next 5 years. We haven't even set the scope of the project yet. And I want to extend the invitation to you all now to begin looking at the existing plans. We want to be able to provide that to you so that you are able to provide input now and moving forward. And I do think we're literally at the conversation stage. I do want to mention that we are looking at, again, as I mentioned earlier, doing a retreat in the month of July, where we would extend an invitation to you, all the EMAC members. It'll be for the executive board, the technical committee, and SIMPO staff and EMAC to come together and have some real input. Because again, tentatively, we have these next 5 years committed. But I think in light of new executive board members, new administrator, it would be valuable to get us all on the same page. So we will be having that discussion, JD. So this is as early as I know to be able to be talking about it. But I would also like to ask everyone to start reviewing the existing plan so that we're all pretty much up to speed and we can start to give better input. But I definitely appreciate your comment, and we're definitely aware of it. Are there other questions or comments on what I've covered so far? All right, so that is the Transportation Improvement Program SIMPO board retreat that I've talked about. Allison will be getting you the information out. Like I said, it'll be sometime in July. And then we can kind of circle back on a couple of these items when we get to number 7. But I just wanted to give some of those updates. And Tammy and EMAC committee, I really appreciate your time and attention on this.
Thank you, Vinny. Number 6 is consideration and possible action to approve the October 26, 2020 special meeting minutes of the EMAC. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
And I'm sorry, Tammy, I think Deborah was raising her hand
Oh.
before you
Oh,
started.
sorry. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hi, Vinny, what about the North Prescott plan? Should we be looking at that too?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Tammy can maybe chime in on that. I have just been invited as SIMPO to participate in it. And I don't know the full dynamics of kind of the organization of the city in Prescott and who exactly is the project manager and who's being invited to be involved and so forth. Tammy, if you can speak on that, that would be great.
Sure. So the city of Prescott hired a consultant. So we have a lot of growth happening in the North Prescott area with Deepwell Ranch and Granite Dells and with the AED project and other areas out there. And the city management decided to hire a consultant to kind of look at creating a concept plan for North Prescott to kind of look at the growth pattern that's happening now, and then some needs that are needed up in that area, like commercial centers or civic centers or other type uses that we kind of see that are needed in that area. In approximate areas, we can kind of see it developing. And one of those, the Great Western area, is seeing a commercial pocket around that corridor, because it will be needed. And we have all this development going on out there. So you're definitely going to have some commercial to service it. Even if it's just neighborhood, commercial, grocery store. Well, we hope to see a grocery store in North Prescott before Prescott Valley gets it. But that's what kind of we're looking at right now. It's still in a draft form, and I'm not sure when it'll be going out to the public for any public comment, or if it is. I'm not really sure about the process, because this is, we're just kind of giving input as the planning staff, and we're not involved in really the creation of the plans. We're just giving input at this time. So that's really all I can tell you right now.
Isn't this precisely when we should give input too? Because when the input phase passes, are we lost again and not,
Well,
like
a lot of it, like with the Deepwell Ranch, it's already kind of has a plan overlay on it, zoning overlay. So and it's coming in phases, I mean, as it's getting developed. And the rest of it, I don't know, like I said, I don't know when they're going out for any public comment on it, or if they will, because it's just a concept for future planning. And as projects come through is when we'll see more public input involved at that time. That's all I can really say about it at this right now. That's all I know.
What about the overlays and the planning that already exist? Is there any consideration of the movement, migration pattern movement, and the plans that already exist?
They're keeping some of the open space and the creek corridors. And I mean, that's stuff that's being looked at right now as part of it. But as it gets developed, we'll have to see how it gets developed. So, and Ron, you're on the group. Do you have any input that you can give beyond what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it will have public input. As a matter of fact, you can go to the city's website and it's on there already. So you can do some stuff.
Oh, there is? Oh, we have been told that.
Well, it's out there on your website. So anyway, also the Deepwell master plan already has all that stuff. That was part of the approval process.
Yes.
It has all the corridors. You can ask, it was in the approval process that all that was anticipated and looked at. So, I mean, to review it is like reviewing it again. I mean, I don't know how many times you want to review it. But
It's mostly the areas on the east side of the airport that may have public comment in the future. Most of that's going to be all residential, except maybe a couple commercial project pockets.
yeah,
But
but
it's all,
that's part of the process now with AED annexation. I mean,
yes.
I mean, so that's going on now. Deborah, what some of the stuff that you're concerned about is part of the AED annexation and some of their stuff. The deep well stuff has already been approved and went through all that process. So,
And Granite Dells too.
yeah, well, and Granite Dells AED is one and the same. So I think we're in pretty good shape for that.
Is there a link to those so that we could look at that in relation to the AED stuff
It's all on the city's websites. Yeah.
on city website? Okay, great. Thank you, Ron.
See, good thing I asked him because I didn't know it was all on our website. That's how much we've been told.
Hello?
Yes, Chuck.
Oh, I thought, was my hand up?
It is now. Yes.
I'm a little bit anxious about us being grouped as public comment to some of these things. I think we are a technical advisory committee that needs to look at some of these plans much earlier than the public is looking at them, especially Great Western Corridor. Our mission statement is to advocate for preservation of interconnected ecosystems that will integrate land use and mitigation for natural resource protection. So we need to get ahead of all this stuff much more than we are right now. And I think Great Western Corridor is a good one for us to look at. I also think we need to be involved with the new county land use, comprehensive land use advisory committee. They're just starting up for the new land use plan. And since part of our mission is for land use, and we've already written an extensive section in the transportation plan, I think we need to meet with them or converse with them at some point soon to start looking at these and trying to figure out how we can designate greater areas than already have been designated as wildlife corridors.
Yeah,
So-
just as a note, Tammy and Chuck, I've also been invited to participate in that Yavapai County Comprehensive Study. So I do have a seat on that particular committee. What I can do, though, to take it a step further is send Dave Williams an email, who's the Development Services Director for the county, and let him know about this particular group. And again, your interest in participating with that and open up that line of communication if that helps.
And there is an environmental section of the Yavapai County Comprehensive Plan. And in the last rewrite, there was language in there about wildlife corridors because I wrote it. So I know there was a section on there about wildlife corridors. And hopefully they're going to keep that in about maintaining and keeping up-to-date data on the wildlife corridors. So it was in there before in the 2012. So, and hopefully they'll maintain that in the future draft.
And Tammy, we just had the second meeting of that particular group, and we are starting out with the environmental section. So Yavapai County staff introduced the section to us, and we basically tabled it to come back because what was presented by staff was to put out a survey, and the committee wanted a little more time to digest the survey and be able to provide input. So just so you know, we're actually starting with the environmental section, and now is a really good time to again reemphasize maybe work that's been done and highlight that at this point.
Yeah, if we can get involved with them right away, that'd be awesome. And maybe start picking a project, a meeting to look at. Like this North Prescott Plan, the 169, the Great Western Corridor, pick a period for us to evaluate and make recommendations so that we're ahead on this stuff instead of way behind. I think people feel a little bit behind on the 69 culvert that so many people wanted to have as a big wildlife crossing, but there was no money in the funding. And I think our group also dovetails into the other group I'm going to talk about today, which is the statewide wildlife vehicle collision task force that is set up by ADOT.
Well,
So
we're kind of getting off topic,
recommendations.
Chuck. That's what this discussion should be for our next agenda item. So right now we were still on number 6 about approving the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So let's get it back on track stay on the agenda. So right now we have the minutes from the October 26th meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve? You're okay. I hear you, JD.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the October 26th, 2020 special meeting.
Thank you. Anyone second? Okay,
second.
Deborah seconds. Okay. And do we want to do a roll call vote, Allison? Or how do you want to do it?
We don't have to. I'm okay doing it just by.
Okay. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we'll get to the EMAC mission roundtable discussion. I think Chuck had a great lead in to that, is that in regards to getting in front of some of these plans, like Ron said, with the Prescott North plan, it's a concept plan, and the Deep Well Ranch has already been approved, so there's not a lot we can do about that. AED's getting ready to finish up, but they only have a little bit of area in the Great Western, in this North area plan. It's other private property to the east of it that's not part of the AED development, or a little bit is, but not all of it. And just looking at the areas around the airport, because there's been some concern about development around the airport and how it may impact the future growth of the airport. So that's kind of what it's looking at doing. But as soon as we get a link, I will send it to Allison to send out to everybody so you can see what's being proposed out there. So, and then the Great Western, that was definitely, we're going to relook, like Vinny said, relook at that plan and update it. And that's when we're going to get involved as EMAC to give input as we're being updated. Correct, Vinny?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I just to kind of help a little bit out with Chuck's point, in the earliest that I think this group, that anyone can be involved in, will be at the retreat, number one, because at the retreat, we're going to have an opportunity to look at the tentative next 5-year schedule, number one. But depending what the groups will, ultimately the executive board makes an action on, will again indicate the order of events. If no change is done, fiscal year 22 is we put out a scope for an update on the Great Western. With things that we've talked about today, at least my initial recommendation to the executive board and working with you all is that we go ahead and table the Great Western. We don't do that update. We let some other activities play out. I think there is an opportunity to move the Sundog Connector plan more current. So either way, at that retreat, we're going to have a conversation, and then we're going to look at the order of events. Once that order of events happens, to me, that's the absolute earliest possible stage, because if as an example, we say that Sundog Connector will actually be moved up to fiscal year 22, then you begin immediately providing input as to the scope of that update. The TAC will work with staff and will take your recommendations and input as to what elements should be evaluated, studied, and that's your opportunity. That's the ground level, basically, at that point. Until we get the order of projects listed officially to move forward, there's just everyone's putting energy into something that we don't know. So I just want to be clear that as far as I know, this is the earliest possible stage that anyone can be involved in, most especially the EMAC group. And I see a couple hands raised. I know JD's been physically waving for a little bit and virtually waving for a little bit. So I'll take JD's, and then there's somebody in the attendee list too, Tammy, that has their hand raised.
Okay. JD? You're better.
I had two things, and I was just asking Allison, this retreat, and I guess it hasn't been determined yet. Is it going to be set up like this, or will we actually be in a big room where we can have social distancing and everyone be there? Because I'm finding this kind of setup, while it's great that we're all together, but it's very frustrating, and I think it really hinders timely interaction. My hand was originally raised way back when we were talking about that county, and I can't remember the comprehensive, I guess, land use committee that's meeting. And I just wondered, and I know, Vinny, you've been asked to be on it, but not as an EMAC member, but as a private citizen, how would I go about finding out when those meetings are? Because I really am interested in the fact that so many meetings and committees are being set up that are kind of related to what our mission is. And we need to at least be there as a private citizen to find out what's going on, as well as having you bring information back to us. So how do we go about who's the contact there?
You bet. Let me.
Or is it that Dave Williams, or?
Yeah, let me take, I guess, make a couple comments. So number one, for the retreat, JD, we are looking at an in-person option. So Allison's looking at different space for me. We're a bit of a bigger group, so I definitely want two things. I want to be able to offer a hybrid version. Again, the preference will be to be in person, meeting all requirements, as you said, to help everybody out, but to also have the technology for those that are not able to attend in person. So we are looking for that space, JD, to let you know on that. And then, yes, the point of contact for the Yavapai County Comprehensive Plan is Dave Williams, the Yavapai County Development Services Director. And as far as public comment, I don't remember a schedule for public comment being shown to us. I know there is one. I don't remember it offhand, but I will, at a bottom line, let you know that, again, the County Board of Supervisors meeting, when they give updates, when the comprehensive plan and staff gives updates, for sure that's a built-in public comment opportunity. But I know more specifically to the plan itself, JD, I can find out if you'd like, and ask Dave to share with this group the public comment opportunities, but I don't know that offhand.
Thank you.
JD, you might also want to go check out their website to see if you become a committee member, because I think they're taking members of the public. You might want to just check their website.
That would be great, but I don't want to do anything that would conflict with my involvement on this committee. So, but would that be appropriate that if I could become a committee member on that, can I also be here?
But you'll probably be a committee member as a member of the public, not representing EMAC.
Okay. I just didn't want to get into any kind of conflict that would jeopardize my position here. Thank you.
We won't let you do that, JD.
And Tammy, you have a member of the attendees that has their hand raised also, Barbara Jacobson, it looks like.
Allison.
There you go. Now you can probably hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. This is the first time I've been able to get in on one of these because they weren't happening for a long time. In fact, I don't even remember there was one in October, but I was in another zone in October anyway. I'm concerned because because it's been so long. And I was told back then, well, there's no money for things anyway, so we're not going to meet, you know, and we're just not going to meet, and there aren't any plans for anything. And to me, you do the planning, and then the work happens. But I know this is a government agency we're talking about here. And I see from the attendees, there's a lot of government agencies involved here. But I'm concerned because 69 was thrown in there. I know people who've had their cars bashed in by deers on 69. There's nothing happened there. When you say deep well is done, there's nothing you can do. And yes, that airport and AEDs, which is coming out any day now, and Tammy, you probably know that the city's going to release it any day now. That needs looked at, and it needs a lot of work. And because this committee hasn't met, I'm, as a member of the public and a couple of environmental and other groups in town, I'm a little concerned that you're not only behind, but that you're really in a rut, and nothing is going to be able to happen because so much time has gone by. So explain to me, if you can, briefly, how this process is going to play catch up and how things are going to be able to happen in terms of the connectors that we need desperately here.
Vinny, do you want to try to take that one?
Sure. I guess, Barbara, I'm sorry, I was just a little bit, I guess there's a couple issues floating out there, I guess. Number one is to be able to look at the 2045 regional transportation plan that SIMPO did all just in the past year. And what that plan did is it took over a year to really evaluate the transportation network in the Quad City area and to really look at where are we today? What does the next 25 years look like? And that 25 years is broken down. And out of that, and it again, in that was the public, was the staff, stakeholders, EMAC, the elected officials, and so forth. And out of that particular plan, we think we have a very solid plan that everyone was exposed to, had an opportunity to review, provide input, and really come up with what we would consider a priority list. And I guess I say priority list with a big asterisk to it, because it's more than that. There's a lot of details that go into it. Not only the public and everyone that I mentioned, the want list, but the needs list, and then what are the available resources. So it is balancing out a bunch of different things. So out of that, definitely have some real priority projects. And we've already started to move on some of those that are on the top of that list, again, to look at the intersection. And I know this isn't directly in our conversation, but the intersections of Robert Road and 89A, the intersection of State Route 69 and 169, that was pretty high on that priority list. And SIMPO, from a planning organization, has already moved forward to accomplish that planning activity. On that same priority list, you'll see other projects, such as the 89A and 89 intersection, to look at the on-ramps that take you to Prescott Valley. So that's another example that we're literally moving forward later this month to bring on a consultant to help us to evaluate the on-ramps. So to continue, the examples would also be on that list is, again, Great Western and Sundog Connector. Again, looking at what we've talked about with land use growth, with traffic capacity, looking at the levels of service of the key corridors. These projects have been identified. So now the question for staff is, okay, we know these are priority projects. So we ask the question of where are these projects? And number two, if they're going to move forward, what is it from a planning perspective that we need to be involved with? And again, this is, again, to me, the earliest possible stages for the planning efforts of these. You know, what needs to be evaluated, what needs to be looked at. So sorry, that's a little bit of an extensive response, but I wanted to acknowledge some of the points that you hit on, Barbara.
No, that helps. And I'll tell you, because people are asking, and like I said, it just feels like it's in limbo and there's nothing being done and nothing can be done and there's nothing seen. I mean, we see building going on, we see roads, we see roundabouts, but we see no connectivity for the wildlife. And that's what people see. And it's getting really frustrating. So you listed at least 4 things that are being looked at. And I would be happy to keep an eye on those. And I would be happy to inform people to keep an eye on those. And any way that they can have input would be great to know how to. I mean, like I said, with the group not meeting all this time, there's no way people could tune in and find out what was going on. So if those are a priority, then the public would like to see some action on those, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Barbara. I really do. And I think, just I won't get too much on a soapbox, but of resources for transportation. I know you listed several different growth and activities in the area. Transportation, again, probably preaching to the choir here that, again, this group has heard that there's really no funding for much of anything, especially, if you will, wildlife crossings and things related to that. But definitely, we've been struggling with the needed resources. Just one quick example from a state perspective, Arizona Department of Transportation, the last few years for Greater Arizona, so that's outside Phoenix and Tucson, has chosen to, if you will, retreat to invest in dollars only for preservation. And again, hear me out, that preservation is absolutely a priority. We always want to take care of what has been built, and we want that to be a priority. But the reason why that's an issue is they're not funding in Greater Arizona expansion and modernization of roads. So you look at our work that we're going to be doing on 69 to widen the road over by Lowe's and Walmart in Prescott, and that's a modernization of that particular road. And projects like that, they're not funding anymore because the funds are not there. So the reason why you are starting to hear a little more activity is the economy for Arizona. And then there's also some talk on a national level for a new transportation bill. So again, SIMPO just wants to put the region in the best possible position. If the state and the feds open up with some additional transportation dollars, we want to be in a position to be able to receive that. So that's kind of a quick wrap up on that, but I appreciate your comments, Barbara. Looks like Chuck has his hand up, I believe, Tammy.
Okay, Chuck. But first, before we do that, for Barbara, the plan, you have to create the plan. Then once you have the plan, and that's where we all give some input, and then they start putting the official plans together, the construction plans, and that's where we really see the meat of it. So
Yeah.
The plan is a concept. This is what we'd like to see. Until they
Right.
start getting the construction plans is where we see the nuts and bolts of it.
So are the plans done?
No, that's what they're thinking. The
because-
Great Western and
Yeah.
we're just starting to talk about starting to update the existing plans that exist.
And I guess that's what was frustrating to me, that there was no meetings all year when planning needed to be done. It just seems like now you're behind. And
Well, no, those aren't even in the works yet.
okay.
So the plans that he's talking about, the Great Western was from 2010. And the other one, the Sundog, what was that from, Vinny?
I want to say, I think I just talked to the city of Prescott. I think it's 2017 or 2018. So
Yeah, it was a while
Barbara
ago.
and Tammy and group, yeah, we're looking at updating these existing plans, again, 2010, 11, 12 years old. So we're currently reviewing it. We're seeing what that plan said then. We're seeing what has changed between then and now. And as a planning organization, coming in to see what needs to be updated. And again, here's your opportunity to say what I've already heard today, and I don't need to repeat the bullet points, but you all have identified key aspects that should be considered in the planning, and that again would be taken into consideration as we draft the scope for those planning documents.
And over the last year, we've had a huge transitions happening. First with COVID, no meetings for anybody, jurisdictions, and then for the transition, we've been just trying to get everybody's feedback on the ground, and then get our game plan together. So that's what we're doing now. But
Okay.
thank you for your input, definitely.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Chuck, unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Chuck. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Based on this conversation, I would like to propose a plan of action. And that is that we, the committee, start looking at various of these big projects that are coming up. I guess Robert Road and 169 would be the first ones, maybe Great Western and the North Prescott Plan, Sundog Connector, because we really need to start looking at before construction plans. We need to be in the design concept phase. Like Great Western has a design concept report. We should all look at that and come up with ideas about where we want to look at for wildlife corridors, if any, and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of a vague plan of action, but I would like to see maybe these projects be prioritized and what plans are in the city or the county or Prescott Valley be released to us so we can start looking at them and having work committees and
So
all that kind of
basically,
stuff.
Great Western, Sundog, there's no construction plans. We're just updating the existing plan to where they see it going. That's what we'll be looking at in part of that process from the very beginning.
That's what we want to look at.
Those are the two that we're going to be at from the ground running forward and updating those.
Okay. So we can get those on the website, the city website. Is that what you were saying?
No. So
Sundog
those are going to be ones that SIMPO is going to be providing to us when we're ready to look at when we start updating those plans.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, Tammy and Chuck and group. So the existing 2010 Great Western is on the Yavapai County website. To be able to help out, though, I will have Allison follow up this meeting with the group, and we'll send you a link to the existing Great Western. And then she can also provide you with the Sundog Connector existing plan. I believe that is on the city of Prescott, but to Chuck's point, to be able to review those existing documents, they do exist out there, but we will try and make your life a little easier and share the links to them if that helps.
That'd be great. And then maybe we could have an agenda item, our next meeting. I guess we're having the retreat and then our meeting. We're not having a meeting before the retreat, correct?
Tammy, I don't know, or Allison, I don't know the schedule of the next meeting. I don't know if you all have, I don't have it in front of me.
Well, since those aren't going, so at the retreat, we're going to get to where they're going to prioritize that, where the SIMPO board is going to prioritize those. And then we'll set up our meeting schedule based on that conversation.
Okay.
And that would be my strong recommendation, Chuck, because again, if they stick with, if we all stick with the Great Western, then that's where everyone's attention and focus should be. Because right now, again, if we stick with where Sundog Connector is, it's not till another 4 years out. So not sure that too much work can be done on that. But if the group swaps them out, then you know exactly what's coming up next. So as Tammy said, based upon the retreat, we'll kind of know where all of our attention is going to go.
Okay, great. Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Deborah has her hand up.
Deborah.
Is it possible that we have a meeting where we look at the wildlife corridors as they exist now in the county and have an idea of how the whole big picture works? And then we can overlay these projects, even the old plans, and see how everything fits together at an earlier stage, so we understand as things come up, we already know how they move. It seems like we could start there and then we wouldn't be behind.
Well, that's just getting the data together, I think, for getting all that information into one area, one database.
How do we move forward with that?
Elizabeth?
So, Deborah, I don't know if you're aware, but there is a wildlife linkages report that has been made available to the public, and I can send that to you. And that does show connectivity and linkages of wildlife across an area. And then that way you could go ahead and kind of see where the area you're wanting to look at. And I can send that to Allison and Tammy, and then they can distribute that, or Allison can distribute it to the group. And so that way we can all kind of start looking to see where these linkages are. And then that way you can put the project and the linkage and kind of, like you were talking about, overlay them. And then that way you would be able to see everything that way. Would that be something that the group would like to see? Thoughts?
Yeah, that'd be, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because until we're all on the same page within our own group, looking at these things and discussing them, how we see and what's going on and moving, then I don't know how we could properly advise anybody else until we are on the same page looking at this as in a big picture way.
Well, the thing is, we have to, once we get our scope of project, then we'll get the data for that area too. So it would make it more sense. Because if you look at 8,500 square miles of Yavapai County, or even the SIMPO boundary, which is what we're tied to, is the SIMPO boundary, is that once we get our projects defined that we're looking at for that plan area, then we can look at the data for that plan area.
I was just thinking if we kind of knew how they moved in the county, then that would be great when we did zero in, but we kind of know before the boundary where they're coming from and where they're moving to.
And the plan that Elizabeth has will show that.
That's
she's going
great.
to share with us.
Thank you. I wasn't fully aware of that. Thanks.
And Jeff Gagnon, him and Scott Sprague are kind of like the wildlife data. They look at connectivity and they do a lot of research with wildlife movement. And so back to the Great Western Extension, Jeff sent this over to me earlier, that there was a study done in 2019 or 2009, 2010, looking at pronghorn movements. And so I will get with them to see if I will be able to send that to Allison to share to the group as just the group, not to the public, because I don't really know our ins and outs with that, if that has been released to the public yet. And then I will get back with them and then get with Allison, and then we'll get an update for that. How does that sound?
That sounds exciting. Thank you.
No promises though, no promises.
And then if I can, just Tammy and to the EMAC group here. So again, item number 7, the EMAC mission roundtable discussion, which we're definitely deep in. And I just want to kind of, again, remind the group about this particular agenda item. It's just an opportunity to do exactly what we're doing, to again, look at the mission. The mission of the EMAC group is to study and advocate for the preservation of interconnected ecosystems in the SIMPO region that will integrate land use and mitigation for natural resource protection, wildlife habits into the regional transportation planning and design program. So that mission, and I just wanted, again, a real opportunity, and I appreciate everyone's dialogue and input. And again, some frustrations, probably more with the pandemic than anything, unable to meet. And then again, about kind of where everyone fits in the order of events and being able to get input in sooner than later. So with that said, I've definitely have taken note of everything set up to this point, but again, want to give the group, the rest of the group, especially the opportunity to just kind of be able to offer your input and give me a heads up as the new administrator. You know, is the group achieving this mission, or is there mission drift, or whatever other input you might have, again, as to how we as a staff can better support your work and you could better support the work that SIMPO is doing. So Tammy, if we can open that up for other questions and comments would be helpful.
Sure. Does anybody on the committee have any thoughts or beyond what we've been talking about? We have been kind of at a standstill. Okay, JD, I see your hand.
I think that the way that we can be supported is that some of the comments that Barbara brought up And I know that we have, at least we have several other people who are listening in on this. Valerie Isley has just left, but Ruth Ann Norris. And these are people who are really committed to wildlife preservation and corridor connectivity in our community. And I think that we really need to make an effort to not let 6 months go by again. And I know that there were justifications, that nothing was really happening, that our efforts on behalf of 69 were too little too late. But I think that for our credibility and for our effectiveness, we need to be meeting more often. And apparently our next meeting is scheduled for the end of July. But after the retreat, I think at our meeting on July, we really need to step up the number of meetings that we're going to be having so that we can really use them as a working meeting.
And we set up the schedule where if we had projects we were working on,
Yeah,
at the time, there was a lot going on. So,
yeah. So I think
we're going to get our feet back grounding now. So
yeah, we need to go ahead and enforce that option that we voted on, that we could have additional meetings depending upon the projects that were available.
yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Ann Norris, you can unmute yourself. There you
Now
go.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you. I just want to weigh in on what JD just said, Deborah, Barbara. It just seems to me, in the time limited time I acknowledge, but the time that I've been aware of this committee and attending, that we are always way behind the curve. We're not. We need to be more upfront if we're going to have any input into this process. We're always like, hey, what about this? Oh, well, the tech committee already looked at that a few months ago. It's too late. And so I think Chuck has the right idea. Some of the others, that it's really important for us to know what's being talked about. And I understand we need to find the order of these projects so we can prioritize our own work. But we need to get, more serious about it. It's too frustrating to find out that, oh, well, you guys are too late. You should have had input 2 years ago. I don't see us getting out of that problem if we don't actually start really meeting and having discussions on our mission and how we can carry it out. Thanks.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to everybody, we are here giving recommendations to the board. So they have to kind of set our priorities, the SIMPO board, and we have to work within those confines. So just as a reminder.
And then also, Tammy, if I could add too, I think this is clear, but I want to really make sure that this is very clear. So as we talk about the Great Western and the Sundog today, I really want to make it so clear that, again, to the group and to the attendees, there is $0 committed for the actual constructions of these roads. So last report I saw for Sundog Connector, I think it was sitting right around $28 million to construct it. Great Western, there's quite a few different dollar amounts floating in there, but it's well over $100 million. Just to put that into perspective, again, there is $0 committed to constructing this road. So we are only talking about an idea, a plan, design, if you will, possible areas for it. And the reason I bring that up is you look at State Route 69, the widening project, it is costing around $10 million. It took the region about 7 to 8 years to bring that project together and to get it approved. And it's one of the very few projects in greater Arizona or rural Arizona that, again, is modernizing the road. And $10 million for that. And right now that project has funds from SIMPO, City of Prescott, Yavapai County, and ADOT. And again, that's a $10 million project that took this region, everything it had, to add a 1 mile lane to make it 3 lanes in both direction. And I just say that to the group to again, just be sure that you know, I'm not talking about constructing these roads. I'm looking at continuing to evaluate with you, the TAC, and our executive board, you know, what is the best location for the future, for the possibility of these roads. So again, I don't know that, unless I'm missing something, I don't think there is any earlier stage than now. Again, the retreat will put an order of events and we'll say we really want to study one over the other one first, but this is ground level again, and please forgive me unless I'm missing something, that this is absolutely, there's no other ground level than this to provide thoughts and ideas on it. And again, just to be clear, there is zero construction dollars, there's no year associated with the construction of these roads. So we are just talking about concepts, planning, and possible locations. So just wanted to emphasize that, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's exactly what the North Prescott area plan and the Granite Creek corridor plan, there's 2 plans the city's working on. So they're just concepts. There's nothing being built. There's nothing unless it's already in the process. So we have Jeff on from Game and Fish. You can unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me okay, Tammy?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention, as far as the data goes, the report that Elizabeth sent is a modeling effort that kind of identifies where we think wildlife will be crossing. But when we have actual GPS data like we do have for Great Western Extension, it can help really pinpoint our efforts and ultimately save money because we know where to spend those dollars at, specifically. Those efforts sometimes take a few years, and we run into issues where after planning starts, then there's this clock starts ticking and we don't always have enough time to gather data. So I just wanted to put that out there. May not be the case in this based on what Vinny is saying, but I wanted to say that if there is the need to collect a couple years of additional data, the sooner that we have the opportunity to start looking into that, the better.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Okay. So anyone else have any input for the roundtable to discuss from the committee? Okay, not seeing anybody. So we'll go to number 8, update of statewide wildlife vehicle mitigation plan.
Tammy, I believe Elizabeth had something to add.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
You're good.
Sorry.
I'm having to comment on my phone, and so it's like this has to be unmuted and this has to be unmuted. But I just wanted to let everybody know real quick in the comments, and I want to take the link and send it to Allison too, so she can distribute it to the whole EMAC email chain. But Scott Sprague has sent over the Yavapai County Wildlife Connectivity Assessment that was published in November 2013 that gives a full report with stakeholder input for wildlife connectivity in the Yavapai County area. So I will also get that one sent out to everybody.
Thank you. And I remember being part of that. So, and then we did have, the county does have that somebody at the county has that information. I remember us getting it when I was there. So I don't know who has it now. So, but they can reference it, and it was referenced in the last plan. So thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, Chuck, update for the mitigation plan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I unmuted? Okay.
Yes.
So, like everything else, the statewide vehicle wildlife collision task force has been not meeting a lot. We've been meeting by Google a little bit, but they're in the process right now of developing a system for wildlife mitigation features, and they updated that from 2013. Or let me back up. ADOT did that in 2013. They have all our wildlife mitigation features on a computer, on a GIS platform called the Features Inventory System. But this group has updated the FIS because there's been new projects, new fencing, all that sort of thing. So they've been working on that. They have conducted a process of evaluating hotspots around the state. State Route 69 was number 3 on the list, and it's really the only one that came on the list from Yavapai County, if I'm correct. I've got Scott and Jeff to correct me if I'm wrong on these things. Interestingly enough, Game and Fish conducted a camera survey of State Route 69 and noted 778 approaches in 6 months. Was it 6 months or 4 months, Jeff? But I want to make sure that everyone understands that's not 778 deer crossing the road. That's a pack of deer coming up and tripping the camera. So they saw that. And an interesting thing that Jeff brought up was that no coyotes are crossing under the culvert. So in January of 2021, the Technical Advisory Committee drafted a hotspot mitigation strategy for development options, and realized that there's not enough reconstruction projects to address the full response to wildlife crossings around the state. So they came up with a low-cost strategy outside of total reconstruction. Right now, there's only one project that's doing a total reconstruction, and that's Lion Springs over near Payson. And they're going from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane access controlled highway. So the Forest Service is requiring us to put in fencing, crossings, all that kind of stuff. But outside of that one and maybe I-17, there's really no place to go except for these lower cost strategies, which are non-structural mitigation projects, including variable message boards, flashing signs, rumble strips, enhanced signing, striping, or to retrofit the area with fencing at large drainage structures, or retrofitting or putting in drop-in structures to refabricate concrete arches, which is what Game and Fish presented to us about a year ago or maybe 2 years ago. The statewide or the State Route 69 widening will incorporate some of these non-structural methods to reduce hits. We're looking at painting caution messages in the roadways for drivers to slow down, flashing tabs on delineators or guardrails, blinking yellow lights on warning signs, things like that. They're going to have some kind of lighting in the culvert, mostly for equestrian and hiking and biking ease and comfort, that kind of stuff. They are going to look at dividing up the culvert so that people can walk on dry land and horses can walk on dry surfaces. Bikes can walk through there dry because they think there's a spring under there right now. So the statewide wildlife vehicle collision task force will complete a comprehensive assessment of all the hotspots with recommended actions needed at each hotspot. We're gonna be looking at that May 5th at a meeting. So that's pretty much a review of what the ADOT Wildlife Vehicle Collision Task Force has been up to over the last year or 6 months. Jeff, Scott, you guys have any comment?
So for the 69 widening, they have some mitigations for signage and warning signs and stuff is what they're proposing.
Correct.
And there's there funding for that through the group or?
Yes.
Okay.
we've already talked with the district engineer and the design planners and the bridge group and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's on board to start looking at ideas that we can use. Jeff sent a interesting web page about how they're doing it in Australia for Tasmanian devils. They have little lights that flash when the devils start walking across the roadway. And so we're looking at all kinds of different things. It'll probably end up just being things like flashing lights on warning signs, maybe some kind of painting in the street, that kind of stuff. We have looked at fencing, but basically we just realized the more fence we put in, the more the deer are actually gonna come around to Lowe's, come around to the Coke distributorship, come around to all the urbanized area there that already exists, and will put them in greater danger. But this whole task force is going to be recommending to all the design people at ADOT things to do at various mileposts, at various sections of state highways and interstates when we start going around modernizing, updating, or completely rebuilding the road. But like Vinny said, there's not much money for rebuilding entire roads except in Maricopa County.
Jeff, do you have anything to add? You're unmuted.
Yeah, I just what Chuck's mentioning for 69 isn't ideal, obviously, but we all know that we've kind of hit the end of the rope on that one. But I did want to mention from a positive standpoint, that culvert that he mentioned, of the 786 deer that were detected, none of those crossed, but we did have 184 javelina, 89 bobcat, 28 raccoon. So there's other wildlife getting to use that structure at least to utilize that corridor. So I just wanted to mention that. We did have 226 deer go around the end of the guardrail. So that's, it's just information we're gathering for future reference.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anyone have any questions or comment from the committee on this? Going once? Anyone from the public? Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Chuck, on that?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update, and keep us informed of anything else that comes up from it.
Yeah, the next meeting will kind of pull it all together, though.
Okay.
So
our next meeting is, I believe, scheduled for the end of July, in which we have the retreat at the time. And I think that's where we get our direction from the SIMPO board. But if something comes up, and Vinny will let us know if something comes up, and Allison, that we may want to meet on ahead of time, then we'll let everybody know and try to set something up before then.
Yeah,
And let's just
Tammy.
hope that the numbers keep doing what they're doing, and we can meet in person next time.
And that's what we're looking to try and do. So hopefully the retreat will get you more details. Well, we're still working out logistics, but I appreciate everyone's passion, engagement, and activity in the work that this group is doing. So please know I'm more than available. Please reach out to me, call, text, email, stop by, whatever. I'd be happy to talk with you all. So I do wish you all the best. Stay healthy, and good to see all your faces.
And if we need to, we have the city council chambers. We have it set up for the hybrid, for in-person and Zoom. So, and we have the barriers and stuff for on the dais. So
That's great.
if we need a place to meet, I can see if we have that available next time.
Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it.
And we have the Zoom available, and I'll set up for that too. So, okay. So I guess we adjourn at 11:32, and thank you for everyone for chiming in, and stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see each other in person next time. And Elizabeth, hopefully your baby's doing well.
She is. She's at daycare today. So
Oh.
thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
congratulations. This is the first time we've seen you or heard from you.
I know, it's like, well, I was on vacation last time, and it's good to be back. It's good to see everybody. Vinny, welcome back. It's good to see you. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good to see you.